What's up, everyone? Welcome to Among the Fence, my YouTube channel where I do music reviews. My name is Aaron, and today we're going to be checking out the new album, This Is Why, by the band Paramore. For those of you who don't know who this band is, they are a kind of pop-punk, alternative rock, or like indie rock kind of band now, I guess. They're from Tennessee. They started around 2004, and This Is Why is their 6th studio album, and I really feel like this band has been around forever. When they released their 2nd studio album, Riot, in 2007, it basically took over, and it was like the only thing that people were talking about. And it's for good reason too, because just about every song on that album was an absolute bop. Hayley Williams' vocals were incredible, and she quickly became like the dream girl for every teenage boy. Their sound went through a lot of changes though with each release, and it kind of seems like they were slowly becoming more and more punkish, using some more old school kind of pop elements mixed in there. And it kind of seems like this new album is when they've mastered that sound. They've really fully committed to it. They've embraced it. And yeah, because of that, I wasn't really planning on doing a review on this, but the more and more I listened to it, the more I felt like there was something to talk about. So yeah, let's jump into the album. The album opens up with a title track song, This Is Why, and it's about the chaos that has been the past 4 years, and how instead of all of us going through this struggle together pretty much and banding together, it's actually caused more anger amongst people, and people are more divided and they're more vicious towards each other more than ever before. And it's got a really chill groove to it. It's got gentle vocals that are pretty high. The chorus is a little bit rockier as it expresses basically what a lot of people have been feeling, how it's just dangerous to go outside. So Hayley, she doesn't feel comfortable going out into the world, and I really enjoy this song based off of that and how relatable it is. Then we have the second song, The News, which this one is kind of self-explanatory. The news is only basically a source of negativity that will only breed anxiety and fear, and the vocals in the verse are a little silly. It was a little hard to get into, but it does fit the theme of this song pretty well. The chorus is bouncy. It's a lot easier for me to get into, and the overall message of this song is great. The news, either on TV or an article or social media, wherever you get your news from, it is absolutely ruining your mental health. So yeah, turn off the news. I'm going to jump ahead to one of my favorite songs on the album, You First. It's about being a good person and also a bad person, which is kind of okay in a way, and being self-aware of that and realizing that other people are kind of the same way. Like, you could be driving down the street and someone cuts you off, and it doesn't affect you whatsoever, but you start cussing them out and you wish the worst possible things on them and their families, and it's just really toxic. And then you get to wherever you're going. Like, for instance, if Hayley shows up at a concert and she does the same thing, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're the greatest person ever. We worship you. You're such an inspiration," when just like an hour ago she was not that. And realizing that everybody goes through this. So if somebody is rude to you for some reason, they might be going through something, you know, and Hayley's recognizing that. And that's, I enjoy this a lot because I try to recognize that as a lot, as well as I deal with a lot of people throughout my day. Some of them aren't so nice, and when they're not, it makes it a little bit easier for me to just kind of shrug it off and be like, I hope their day gets better, you know? And then we also have the song Running Out of Time. This one is also pretty personal to Hayley, as it's covering her procrastination and her resistance to change. It reminds me a lot of the song "Cause I Got High" by Afro Man, if anybody remembers that song, specifically in the verses. The chorus is a great hook, but it lacks substance, but it's okay, because this is more of a verse heavy song. That's where most of it is. The rhythm guitar definitely steps up in the final chorus though, which I feel like helps out a lot. I already did a quick review on the song "Say Come Saw," which means it is what it is, but I'll still touch on it again real quick. You can hear the influences for this whole album within this one song. The music is very bouncy, and the vocals are kind of playful in the chorus, while the verses are more serious, coming to terms with reality kind of feel. And I got a strong Talking Heads vibe from this song, and I feel like that basically covers the entire album, like 1980s modern pop sort of thing. Then we have the song Big Man, Little Dignity. It's about men doing whatever they want because they know they won't be held accountable, which is very toxic. And just because you could get away with something absolutely does not mean that you should do it. It's got a lot of modern pop elements to it that work really well. I feel like this is one of the more modern sounding songs on this album, specifically in the chorus. And Hayley's vocal performance has got a little bit of a mockery-ish bite to it, which sounds great. And her performance really shines through in the bridge on the song as well. I really love that the songs Figure Eight and Liar go back to back. Figure Eight is about a toxic relationship that isn't really going anywhere, kind of like a figure eight, how it just keeps looping around and around and around. And not only that, but it's also an infinity sign, which means it's just going to go on forever and ever. And I really like the twinkling kind of intro and how the song just keeps building and building upon itself until it gets into the chorus, which is kind of the climax for it. It might be like the heaviest song on the album, mostly due to the distorted rhythm guitar in the pre-chorus and the thick bass in the chorus. And I enjoyed this one quite a bit. And then we have Liar, which sees Haley denying her feelings for her band member and rhythm guitarist, Taylor York. It sounds like a gentle finger picking style guitar. I'm not sure if that's exactly what's happening in the verses. And Haley really admits that she lied about her feelings for Taylor, but it didn't matter because he already knew. And I really like the bridge where she admits that she should be ashamed to it, or she used to be ashamed to it, but it's better to really just embrace your feelings and let them go, because the more you're ashamed of something, the harder it is to deal with, even when it's not something you should be ashamed with. And not only that, but the longer it lasts and the stronger it gets. And it just, again, it's another thing that just kind of ruins your mental health, is being ashamed of any feeling you have at all. Crave is a song about nostalgia and craving the glory days, which I feel like is something that every band probably goes through. You know, like when you were at your top, when you're at your peak, when it's like you were the only thing anybody was talking about, and then you kind of fizzle out, and you're still really popular and everybody knows who you are, but you're not the talk of the party anymore. And I feel like, again, that's something that every band, hopefully every band has to deal with. Hopefully your band will get there someday, you know. It's really colorful. It's full of different textures, specifically from the guitar. The vocals in the chorus are brilliant, as you could really feel Haley's desire for the good old days. And she does a good job at describing the feelings of fond memories and moments that we didn't even really enjoy that much when we were going through them. And sometimes you can think back to a time when you're like, man, like that was a good time back then, but the whole, you know, like the rest of your life was in shambles and it wasn't doing that good. And you kind of fantasize about it a little bit, even though it wasn't that great, just because it's a memory, when it's better to be, you know, present in the moment and just live for here and now. Then we have the closing track, Thick Skull, which this one's another kind of like self-reflecting song in a way. Some of Haley's problems are self-inflicted, which she admits, but she's coming to terms with the fact that she doesn't have to hold on to that. She doesn't have to be ashamed of it anymore. And, you know, she doesn't have to feel guilty for her problems just because they are self-inflicted. Just because something happens in the past doesn't mean you have to constantly remind yourself of it. The drums are fantastic as they play off of the vocals, and musically it's great. It's progressive with different sounds around every single corner. They try to implement a lot of the different nuances the band has between rhythm guitar and Haley's vocals and the exploding drum work and stuff like that. It's a great closing track, and I feel like it finishes off the whole theme of this album. I really enjoyed getting to hear all the different influences throughout this album. You can hear something on every single song. And I mentioned the Talking Heads earlier, and I stand by that. I'm a huge fan of the Talking Heads, and I can hear just so much of their sound in this album. If you're not into pop records from the 1980s to maybe like late 70s to early 90s, you will probably struggle with this album. I love them a lot, specifically for their quirkiness, and because of that, this album, I'm kind of fond of it. I really like This Is Why. It grew on me really quick. The first couple of times I listened to it, I was like, I wasn't really sure. That's why I'm doing this review like a whole week after the album came out. The different vocal performances and choices were clever, and the bouncy riffs were great. However, the vocal performances are a little monotony. There's not a whole lot of variety to them. They're kind of the same thing in every song. And not only that, but there's not a whole lot of musical substance going on either. And the good parts of this album could also be the bad parts. Like I said, if you're not a fan of early pop records, especially if you were a fan of Paramore before, you probably won't like this album. And you'll, honestly, with every song, you'll probably cringe more and more and more. So because of that, I got to give This Is Why by Paramore a 6.1 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. I've heard a lot of good things, and I've heard a lot of really bad things about this album. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of This Is Why. Let me know what you would rate it, and let me know what your favorite song is. And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a like. If you want to help support me and my channel, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon. Doing any of that stuff helps me out tremendously, especially with YouTube's almighty algorithm that is so hard to please these days. And I appreciate you guys so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me sit here and talk about music. And I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time.
I was trying to make it lying down.